Hey guys, this is Biscuits from Biscuits Total War giving you a 4 versus 4 online commentary. This submission is actually being sent through one of my subscribers to the channel, a player who goes by the name of Tut. So you may already seen him online, hopefully you might have played him before if you're active within the Rome Total War community. So he submitted me this replay that was played a few weeks ago, I believe. Now the reason why he submitted this replay is he's using the Britons, and it's quite rare that you see the Britons in a 31k game, so he thought it might be a good little replay to stick up on my channel. So thanks again Tut for sending me this replay. I hope you guys enjoy it. One thing that I can guarantee from this replay today, this replay is actually going to be quite a long replay. I've watched it before putting this commentary to it. A lot of the guys are playing quite defensively, but you'll get to see some new little tactics and new tips that maybe you might not have seen on my previous games, which tend to be quite shorter. So if we have a quick look at the teams and who's brought what today, we've got Tut, and as you can see he's brought along the Britons. If you look at his build, he has got 5 barbarian barbarian chariots, and then he's got 1 missile chariot, which uses all of his 6 cav that he can bring in a 31k game, and the rest that he's brought is 14 head hurlers, which is quite rare to see. These head hurlers, one thing they're great at is lowering the morale on the enemy, so you see them being used at full potential. We've also got Gladius from the Brotherhood clan. Gladius has brought 6 Praetorian cav, 3 archer auxilia and 11 urbans, and he's actually got his general within his Praetorian cav. And then we've got Pompey, or aka CELT. He's playing underneath the name as. He's brought the Brutii, the Roman faction, and as you can see he's got 3 Praetorian cav and 17 urbans with his general in the urbans. And then last but not least we've got a player called RACERX. He's got Brotherhood tags on. I don't actually know who he is, but he's brought 5 Praetorian cav, 1 archer auxilia and then 14 urbans, and he stuck his general in the urbans, which is probably one of the best places to stick your general. And if I have a look at the Britons, the general was actually in the chariot, so it's going to be the strongest unit he's got. He's stuck it in there to try and boost the morale. You don't want to have your general in a weak unit, because if you're a barbarian player, if that barbarian general gets killed, it's going to lower the morale for all of your troops. So let's have a look and see what the opposition have brought. As you can see there's 3 Julii factions and 1 Germanian faction. So we have got MYSTIQUE playing as the Rome Julii faction. Now MYSTIQUE has basically got the same army composition that Pompey has got. She's brought 17 urbans with 3 Praetorian cav. And then we've also got SR or Sccorpy. Sccorpy tends to bring heavy archer builds. He's brought the Roman faction, and he's brought 5 Praetorian cav, 5 archer auxilia, 9 urbans and 1 town watch. As you can just see here in the background, the opening gambit is being done by Tut. He swung round one of his chariots, the archer chariots, around the back to try and get some flank shots. Whilst this is all going on, MYSTIQUE is trying to push back these chariots. In the meantime he swung his head hurlers around to meet with the bulk of his allies. And then if we have a look at the next member here, this is Uther Dragons. Uther's brought the Germanian build. It's quite an odd build that he's brought. He's got 1 barbarian warlord in there, the cavalry, and 5 Gothic cav, which is fairly standard, but he's only brought 1 berserker unit. Now usually when people bring the Germans they tend to use 3 berserker units in 31k to really maximise their berserkers, but he's only brought just the 1, and then he's brought 9 chosen axemen, so it's quite a small build, but I imagine it's probably heavy on the upgrades. And if we have a look at the 5th or the 4th member even, it's Conan from the Brotherhood clan. He's brought 1 legendary first cohort. This is going to help boost the morale for his troops. and 16 urbans and 3 Praetorian cav. So again, quite similar to what Mystique's brought, but he's brought 1 legendary thrust cohort in the mix. So if we swing back to this wing just to see what's going on, I've got it on double speed, and that's basically just to try and speed up this game. It's going to be quite a long game, as I say. We've got SR trying to push back these barbarian warlords chariots here, just to try and push them back with the cav in full support of the infantry. One on one, the chariots should be able to easily beat the Praetorian cav, unless these Praetorian cav have got guard mode on and in a tight formation with support with the urbans. So seeing that there's a lot of support with these urbans, looks like Tut has pushed back his barbarian cav, but every so often he's swinging them forward, as you can see here, just to harass the opposition, just to try and push them back. In the meantime, these 3 players here, the Senate, Brutii and Scipoo, are slowly clumping together and pushing forwards just to try and push these guys back. But at this stage in the battle, it's fairly even, and not one side has basically taken the advantage. Everyone's playing fairly defensively, fairly conservative. If we have a look at SR, what he's got here, now he's brought alongside these town watchmen. These town watchmen won't be able to throw any peeler, they won't be able to go into Testudo. They're basically going to be playing as a meat shield role. What their job is basically to absorb the peeler, act as a bit of a blocking force, whilst they're being struck by the peeler, or then give these urbans here the chance of throwing their peeler over into the enemy. So basically by getting these guys here, it's going to free up some extra money, so SR can use the extra money for upgrades on his units, maybe boost his cavalry or boost his urbans. So these guys here, you can see they've got into a defensive position here. They're just basically waiting for CELT guys to come into range. As you can see, SR is throwing his peeler over the town watch, and now they're smacking into the sides of the urban cohorts. And to counter this move, what CELT has done, he's put one of his guys into Testudo to basically minimise the effect from the peeler storm from these units over here. Now Tut has swung his cav, his chariots, onto this wing here. He's got one of his guys into constabulary circle. This basically means that they can spin around in a circle and minimise the effect of the arrow or missile fire on this chariot unit, whilst they can try and get some flank shots into the sides of these urbans or Praetorian cav. But the downside of doing this, basically they're going to get very tired very quickly. As you can see, they're already exhausted. So from them being exhausted, they're going to be very vulnerable for any charges with any cav. They're going to be less effective with the archer fight, but hopefully they'll be able to take down a couple of these Praetorian cav, which if we look closely, looks like they have managed to inflict a couple of casualties, but not a great deal. So if we have a look here, CELT has got one of his urbans in Testudo. So you can see there's 41 men there. Now he's got Testudo on with guard mode on. That's basically to anchor or to prevent SR's guys marching forward and throwing their peeler. If they do throw their peeler, automatically they're going to be thrown into this Testudo unit. So to get around it, what SR needs to do is basically do a lot of micromanagement to individually select the units that he wants to throw his peeler at. Whilst this is going on, it looks like GLADIUS has taken initiative. He sent forward one of his Praetorian cav just to try and smack into one of these urbans here. Now it hasn't done much damage to this urban unit, but it has routed this town watch. Now there's 23 men there, so that they will shortly come back. And Mystique is now doing exactly the same that GLADIUS has done. She sends in 3 of her Praetorian Cav, again to smack into CELT's units. As you can see, CELT's units are only down to 27, so they're still well and truly within the game. They may rout underneath this pure weight of all of these Praetorian Cav smacking into them, but every time Mystique does this manoeuvre, charges forward, it gives the chance for CELT to basically throw a couple of volleys of Peeler into these Praetorian Cav. So it's really imperative that when Mystique launches forward with her Praetorian Cav, the minute she strikes into these units, she needs to be pulling them back. She doesn't want to keep them standing still, because if you stand still, as you can see, it gives the ample chance for CELT to throw in a volley of Peeler and knock out a couple of these Praetorian Cav. Now, although they've got quite a lot of Cav with this team here, when it comes to the end game, you really want to make sure you've got a few units of Cav, because these couple of units of Cav that you've got at the end of the game are really going to be decisive to really help you cause the routing of the opposition. So after all of that, eventually that unit that CELT have is now being routed. Now, although he's lost roughly about 81 men in that unit, it has been quite costly for the opposition to try and break that unit. They've done several charges with their Cav. They've expended quite a few volleys of Peeler. So it's still fairly 50-50. As you can see, Mystique is being extremely aggressive with her Cav. She's trying to smack into these Testudo units, basically trying to crack these units with their charges. And then, as you can see, her allies, Sccorpy, they're probably going to advance forward. Now that Town Watch unit has now come back. It's not really going to do much. There's only 20 odd men left in that unit. They've already routed once, so their morale was going to be rock bottom. So if CELT was to aggressively push forward, those guys should rout within a matter of moments. Now Tut, he's now brought his chariots back around to the flank here. And looks like Mystique again has got more units into Testudo. Again, it's playing very defensively. She's got these units in Testudo to act as a Peeler screen, and then got these units in loose formation to act as Peeler throwers. And they might be in range just of these guys here from GLADIUS. So as you can see, Mystique is still trying to rout these units here. Looks like now eventually a second one of CELT's units have now routed. So it looks like CELT's lost 2 of his urbans. But as I say, the Julii players, they've had a lot of casualties of all these Cav charges that they're doing. So these guys got Testudo and guard mode in. The reason why you can see they've still got guard mode, if they didn't have guard mode, the minute the opposition touched them, they would break Testudo and break formation. So it's imperative that if you do this little manoeuvre, you keep guard mode on as well, just to make sure you do stay in formation. So in comes Mystique with another Cav charge to try and hit these Brutii units here, which have come out of formation. She quickly pulls the guys back. Again, whilst this is going on, GLADIUS has got his archers, and he's using his archers to try and take as many shots at these Praetorian Cav as he can. Now it looks like Mystique is now pushing forward. Again, all sides here playing very defensively. Looks like Scipoo have yet to actually enter into this battle here. They're just holding that wing, as is GLADIUS. Although he's throwing a couple of volleys of Peeler here, the Senate, they haven't really got stuck into it yet. Most of the action is happening between Pompey and it looks like Conan and Sccorpy. Now Tut's now brought in his head hurlers. So he's peeled off about 5 or 6 of his head hurler units. Now these guys are pretty hard to actually manage. You might think they've got the range of an archer, which they don't. Their range is actually shorter than an archer. And you might think they've got the same range as a slinger, but their range is actually smaller than a slinger. So in order for them to be have any effect, you do need to get them quite close to the opposition. Now if you get them quite close to the opposition, they're going to be quite vulnerable against any cav charges. And also, one of the downsides of the head hurlers, the ammunition that they've got, they use these heads to throw, but they only have a limited amount of heads, which is understandable. They're not going to be able to encase their whole body in heads to throw. They've only got literally, I think maybe about 18 or maybe even 20 volleys of heads. Once they've had those volleys thrown, they basically have to pull out their secondary weapon, which is a long get my words out correctly, which is just one long sword. And these swords really going to be no match against any urbans in a one-to-one melee fight. So their main choice of weapon is the head hurling, and when they throw these heads into the units, they're going to lower the morale for these units, therefore lessening the effect of their one-to-one melee fight. But one thing to bear in mind, if you put my cursor over these units here in Mystique, all of them are all frightened by these chariots, which are over here, which means that if these guys were to enter into a one-to-one fight, Mystique is going to be disadvantaged because her units are basically suffering from fear factor on these chariots. So as you can see, again, all players still playing very defensively. In comes GLADIUS with a cav charge here. He's probably trying to catch Conan out of guard here and trying to strike into one of these Testudo units, which has been relatively successful, and he hasn't lost too many of his Praetorian cav, but it is a risky manoeuvre because his guys could get caught up upon these urbans and then have a counter charge on their SR, Mystique or Conan. So as you can see, CELT pushed his guys forward, engaged into a one-to-one melee fight. His guys are fairly tight formation, keeping them nice and close, which is going to boost their morale. And whilst this is going on, looks like there's a few head hurlers chucking a few heads just over the heads of these urbans into these urbans over here. But Mystique's seen that again. She's coming with another cav charge just to try and break up the CELT's formation here. And again, in comes GLADIUS with a second cav charge, but this time he's been caught out of guard. He's charged in here, but Mystique is coming with a counter charge, as has GLADIUS, and therefore has routed one of their Praetorian cav, which is going to be quite cost effective, because if we look at the Senate, they've only actually brought, they've brought 6 Praetorian cav, so they've still got 5 Praetorian cav left. So again, the most of the fight's happening here in the centre. CELT's still got his guys in guard mode with Testudo. Looks like Scorpy's moved in one of his units, and they're basically individually throwing their peeler into the side of GLADIUS, trying to cause as much devastation as possible. Now if we look over here, Uther has peeled away his barbarian general, which is quite a risky manoeuvre to do. He's been quite aggressive with his general, as you can see. He's almost using it as if it was a Roman general, but he's paid the consequences by doing that. As you can see, his general unit has just basically been killed. His general is now being slaughtered by that little manoeuvre. So by doing that, that's now going to affect the morale for all of his Germans. So he's probably wishing he hadn't done that. He's tried to basically use this unit as if it was a Roman general, and basically charge in and charge out, but hasn't been successful in that manoeuvre. By doing that, it's basically caused his guy to die, and therefore lowering the morale for all of his units. So as you can see, in comes CELT. It looks like he's about to do a little cav charge on those units, which he has done. Quickly pull them away. All sides again are playing extremely conservative with the odds cav charge, trying to break these Testudo units. It's just really a case of waiting for one side to slip up and engage with all their units. So in comes Pompey. It looks like he's getting him board of this standoff. He's charging his guys. That's routing another one of Mystique's units. But Mystique won't be too bothered about that because she's got quite a few urbans to pull back. As you can see, she's got quite a few units in reserve in that close knit formation. So in comes CELT with another cav charge. And it looks like the Germans are now coming close. It looks like the main engagement might be about to begin. In comes Mystique. She's moving in here, guys. In comes SR's cav. So here we go. It looks like it's going to be the opening charge. Julii really is throwing in all of their units. Now here comes the Germans. So they're charging in there, guys. As you can see, in comes the Senate with a cav charge. Head hurlers are chucking their heads in the back. In comes the chariots. Now in comes the Scipoo cav. And now in comes the German cav. So this is really everyone's going for it at the moment. It's 50-50. This could go either side. Now it's really important. The British have now lost their general. That's going to have a devastating effect on the morale for their units. But it looks like they're still staying in there. Looks like the British haven't routed yet. Now, if you look carefully at these Julii units, you can see these guys are starting to rout. The Germans, a few of their units are now starting to rout. So it looks like Tut's side is basically getting the advantage here at the moment. There's a chain rout going on. But if you do look, the majority of these Julii units are stuck in this formation. They're quite tight. It's going to be hard to punch through them. So you can see over here the Scipii, they're trying to viciously push forward with their cav, but it's been to no avail. Looks like these Julii units have got guard mode on. They're pretty tight. It's hard to push through them. But saying that, they're having a barrage of these heads being thrown right into the ranks of these urbans. That's causing their morale to drop down, which is causing a few units to rout. But a lot of these units are probably going to come back any moment now. So let's swing back into double speed, see what's going on. Really is fairly tight at the moment. It's been an absolutely devastating blow to the British. They've lost a lot of their chariots, as you can see here. Their chariot defense is quite low, so in a prolonged melee fight they're going to have a lot of damage inflicted upon them. Mystique's got into a decent formation there. In comes the Germans. Now these Germans, although they're coming back into the thick of it, they've already had their general killed, they've already routed, so they're not going to be able to stay around for too much longer. If they get a decent charge into them, they're going to rout. So Mystique's taking advantage here. She swung her guys right around the side here. A nice little flank move here. It's all going to be dependent on if these guys can hold their ground. But the Senate have seen that. They've charged in their cav. So is Scipii. So is the Senate here. They're trying to isolate these units here. And because of that successful isolation and successful charge, that's caused the Julii guys here to rout. So they're now starting to rout. They're now starting to break. Uther seen this. He swung around his German axemen to try and support these Julii units. They really don't want to lose this flank battle here. If they lose this flank battle here, it's going to make it 10 times harder for the Julii and the Germans to try and stay in this battle. Now if we have a look here, another one of the generals has been chopped down. It looks like that was Pompey or CELT. His guys, the Brutii, have now been routed. Now if we look here, GLADIUS has got himself into an excellent little manoeuvre there. He's charged into the back here. They're doing all their cav charges here on this side. They're just trying to break this flank. They're trying to crush it. They're trying to wrap around. And Conan's seen this, so he's peeled off one of his units to try and push around the side here to make sure that this flank does not collapse. It looks like they're doing okay on this flank here, but they really want to make sure they hold the centre and don't lose this flank. The Germans have managed to push forward here and isolate these guys, but in doing so, Pompey's managed to come in another cav charge, smacks straight into the back of these Germans. These Germans have now routed. It looks like they've only, what, maybe 2 units left of the Germans in the actual fight. They must have extreme upgrades to basically stay in this melee fight. Earlier on I was saying about the importance of keeping your cav to the side, making sure they're still in the game when it comes to this last part of the game. As you can see, it really has swung into the opposition side at the moment. Because they've got this cav, they can afford to pull their cav around the side and go in for these cav charges. And the only thing that Conan, MYSTIQUE can do is basically oppose this by getting their guys and doing a counter charge and trying to cut down as many of these Praetorian cav as possible. But it looks like it's been to no avail. Looks like at the end of the day, Tut, GLADIUS, CELT and RACERX, basically they managed to hold their cav to the side and cause that chain rout in the centre, and that basically that big glorified 31k mosh pit which we all love to see. If you're used to playing CWB games, this is one of the plus sides of playing 31k. At one stage it's going to be a huge charge, it's going to be a huge slog. Everyone's going to be at it, giving it beans, basically throwing everything into the mix that they possibly can. So it looks like it was a great game, really valiant effort. The opposition now, it looks like Sccorpy, MYSTIQUE, Uther's, Conan are throwing in the towel there. It was valiant effort, really good battle there. I really hope you guys enjoyed that game. As I said, it could have gone either way, but it looks like Tut and his team managed to just pull it back in the last moment. It just shows you how devastating those head hurlers can be in dropping the morale. If you look on the kills, it's so even at the moment. Tut managed to get in 1,100 kills, RACERX got nearly 1,500 kills, CELT 1,300, same with GLADIUS. If you compare that to the opposition, MYSTIQUE got in a decent 1,000 kills, SR 1,300, Uther 1,000, Conan 1,400. So kills wise it was so close there. So I hope you guys enjoyed that game. Again, thanks so much for submitting this video, Tut. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you've managed to stick out this commentary right to the end. If you do like the battle, please leave a little like, please leave a thumbs up, leave a little comment. I really do appreciate it. This is Biscuits signing out and thanking you once again for your time and your patience for checking out my channel. Okay, thanks again. Bye now.